Dust hung heavy in the air as the sun dipped low over the New Mexico horizon, bathing the hills in blood-orange light. Cole Hardigan tugged his coat tighter against the wind and clicked his tongue to urge his horse forward. He hadn't planned to ride out this far, but the silence of the ranch had grown heavier than the ache in his bones. A man could get swallowed up in it if he let it. The trail cut through canyon and scrubland, the kind of lonely that made a man feel forgotten. Cole liked it that way. Solitude was akin to companion than memories. That was until he saw her. She hung from an old sycamore tree just off the trail, her small frame still, the tip of her toes barely touching the dirt. A crude wooden sign was nailed above her head. "White man don't forgive." Cole's breath caught. For a moment, he thought he was looking at a ghost. The girl couldn't have been more than 16. Dark braids framed her dirt-smeared face. Her wrists were bound, and her skin bruised and bloodied. But, God help him, her chest moved. She was alive. Cole leapt from his horse and cut her down fast as he could, catching her in his arms before she crumpled. She gasped as air rushed into her lungs, coughing violently, eyes fluttering open just enough to register him. She flinched. "It's all right," Cole muttered, cradling her close. "You're safe now. No one's gonna hurt you." She didn't speak, didn't move, just stared at him with hollow, terrified eyes. Whoever had done this to her hadn't just tried to kill her. They'd tried to erase her. Cole looked at the sign again. The message wasn't for her. It was for him, for any white man who dared to care. He mounted up, keeping her bundled against him, and turned toward the ranch. The ride back was silent. She never spoke, never wept. Cole wrapped her in every spare blanket he had and laid her in a room that once belonged to his wife. The girl slept for 2 days straight. On the third, she woke screaming. He ran in and found her clawing at the sheets, her voice raw, speaking in a language he didn't understand. "Easy," he said, kneeling beside the bed. "You're all right. No one's going to hurt you." Her eyes locked on his. She was wild, like a cornered coyote, trembling with distrust. "My name's Cole," he said slowly, hand out but not touching. "You're safe here. You hungry?" She stared, then nodded once. That was how it began, with stew and silence. Days passed. She never said much, but her eyes followed him, always wary, always watching. He learned to speak gently, to move slow. When he went outside, she'd peer through the window, half hiding behind the curtain. She told him her name on the 10th day. Tala. That night, she sat by the fire with him, arms folded around her knees. Her voice was barely louder than the crackling logs. "White men came to our village," she said, eyes on the flames, looking for silver. "They burned homes, took girls. I fought. They hung me up to scare others." Cole's throat tightened. "And your family?" he asked. Her silence was answer enough. He didn't know what to say, so he just stayed there, letting the silence settle between them. Over the next few weeks, she began helping around the ranch. She milked the goat, fetched water, even tended to an old patch of wildflowers his late wife had once loved. When spring rain came, Cole found her standing barefoot in the yard, face tilted up to the sky like it was blessing her. The nightmares didn't stop. Some nights he'd wake to her screaming in the next room, thrashing against invisible hands. The first time, she flung a lamp at him when he tried to comfort her. After that, he just sat outside her door, listening until her breathing eased. One evening, she stood at the fence, watching the horses. Her voice came soft behind him. "You lost someone, too." Cole turned. "My wife. Cancer. For years back." She nodded slowly. "You stopped talking to the world after that." He gave a faint smile. "That obvious? You walk like a man carrying ghosts." Something shifted between them then. A thread of understanding. Not pity, something more honest. They worked the land together. Days passed in sweat and sunburn, nights in quiet dinners and slow healing. He taught her how to shoot a rifle. She taught him words in Apache. Neither of them spoke about what had happened, but it lingered like ash in the wind. One afternoon, a rider approached from town. A deputy, face grim. "We found a camp," he said, glancing toward Tala. 6 men. All scalped. Brutal stuff. You hear or see anything strange out here? Cole shook his head. Nothing. The deputy tipped his hat and rode off. Tala was watching from the porch. Her hands were still. Cole didn't ask. He didn't need to. That night, she sat beside him by the fire. For the first time, she leaned her head on his shoulder. You didn't tell, she whispered. No, he said, voice low. I didn't. She closed her eyes. I didn't want to live, she said. That day in the tree, I was already gone inside, but you cut me down. He looked at her, the curve of her cheek lit by firelight. You gave me a reason, he said quietly. I just didn't know it yet. They didn't kiss that night, didn't speak of love, but something passed between them. A promise not spoken, not rushed, just held gently like a newborn flame. Spring gave way to summer. The ranch grew green again. Tala laughed more. Cole smiled more. They planted a garden behind the barn, and every morning she greeted like it was a sacred place. One morning, as the sun rose behind them, she touched his hand. I want to stay, she said. Cole looked at her, heart hammering like he was 20 again. You already have, he said. And just like that, two broken souls found peace, not in forgetting the past, but in building something the past could never take from them. A home. Together. It had been nearly a year since Cole Hartigan found Tala hanging beneath that old sycamore tree. Since then, the land had bloomed, and so had something deep between them. Quiet, unspoken, but steady as sunrise. They worked side by side, her laugh now as much a part of the ranch as the wind through the cottonwoods. But the world beyond their fence hadn't forgotten Tala, and it sure hadn't forgiven. Cole first saw the riders from the North Ridge. 3 of them, too far to make out faces, but something about the way they moved told him they weren't drifting cowhands. They rode tight, silent, purposeful. He came down to the porch, rifle in hand, just as Tala stepped out with a basket of eggs. Riders, he said simply. She froze. Her face didn't change, but the air around her seemed to shift. Apache? He shook his head. Don't think so. She nodded once, then went inside. When she came back, the basket was gone, replaced by her own small bow. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. By evening, the riders had camped just beyond the west fence. They hadn't approached the house. Not yet. Cole didn't like that. They're watching, he muttered, scanning the shadows. Tala stood beside him. They're waiting for darkness. Think they're bounty men? Or worse, she said. That night, neither of them slept. Cole sat in his chair by the door, shotgun across his knees. Tala moved like smoke through the house, quiet, ready. At dawn, the horses were gone, but deep hoof prints and empty tins near the edge of the creek told him it wasn't over. 2 days passed. Tension stretched thin as rawhide. Then the old trapper, Mick Dawson, came by on his monthly run for jerky and beans. His horse was lathered in sweat, and his face pale beneath the beard. You got her here? He asked, barely off his saddle. Who? Cole said, stepping out onto the porch. That Apache girl. Cole stiffened. Tala stepped out behind him. They's talk in town, Mick went on. Said a rancher's been harboring a savage girl who scalped 6 men near Dry Butte last winter. Ain't safe. Ain't right. One of them was the sheriff's cousin. Cole felt the heat rise in his chest. Those men tied her to a tree and left her for dead. I ain't blaming her, Mick said quickly, but others will, and they ain't far behind me. I seen smoke on the west trail. Tala looked at Cole, calm as ever. It's time. He turned to her. For what? To leave. He shook his head. No, this is your home. I won't let them burn it down. He grabbed her wrist, gentle but firm. You're not running. Not alone. That night, they buried anything they couldn't carry. Old letters, extra clothes, his wife's photograph. They packed 2 horses and rode east at first light, heading toward the hills where the land grew rugged and men rode less. They camped near the canyon rim. Cole made a fire. Tala stood lookout. When the stars came out, she sat beside him and touched his arm. You don't have to do this, she said. I know, but you're doing it anyway. I reckon I'd do worse for someone I care about. She looked into the fire for a long time. What if we never get to go back? Then we build something new. A branch cracked behind them. Cole was on his feet in an instant, rifle raised. Out of the tree stepped a man in a dark duster, hands raised. "Name's Eli Carter," he said. "I'm not here to shoot." Cole didn't lower the gun. "That's so." "I was part of the posse," the man said, eyes flicking to Tala. "But I ain't riding with them no more. What they're planning, it's not justice. They aim to hang her. And you, why come here?" Tala asked coldly. "Because I seen what those men did to that village," Eli said. "And I didn't stop 'em, but I can stop this." Cole narrowed his eyes. "You expect us to trust you?" "No," Eli said, "but I know where they'll come through. Canyon Pass. You can set the land on fire behind you, or you can end it." Cole looked at Tala. Her jaw was set. "All right," Cole said. "Then let's end it." The next day, they rigged the pass with dry brush and oil-soaked sacks. Tala carved notches into trees to mark direction. When the men rode in 10 strong, shouting and cocky, the whole place went up like the mouth of hell. Chaos exploded. Smoke choked the air. Cole picked them off from the high rocks, one shot at a time. Tala moved like wind, bow in hand, cutting paths through the brush. Eli fought beside them until a bullet took his leg and dropped him into the dust. When the last of the riders turned and fled, only 4 remained. The others lay dead or scattered. Eli lay groaning, and Tala knelt beside him, pressing cloth to his wound. "I owed you," he whispered. "Guess I paid it." "You did," she said. They buried the bodies beneath the red cliffs. No names, no crosses, just stones and silence. When it was done, Cole stood beside Tala, the canyon burning behind them, and asked softly, "You still want to leave?" She looked at him, dust on her cheeks, firelight in her eyes. "No," she said. "I want to live." They rode home together, the wind behind them. The ranch was still there, quiet, waiting. In the weeks that followed, neither spoke of the fire. They planted again, built a stronger fence, and let the world forget them. But Cole never forgot the moment she took his hand one morning in the barn and whispered, "You saved me again." He looked at her, smiled, and said, "No, Tala, you saved me first."